And try this again because this is the third time now. This machine's messing with me, man. Okay, so we're going to tackle here um, in part one of Unit One. We looked at the end of Reconstruction, the political end of Reconstruction with the election of 1876, the Compromise of 1877, and the economic end of Reconstruction with the results of the Philadelphia World Expo and the conclusions reached by the Treasury Department regarding that expo. So, what we're going to look at right now is America in the years after the end of Reconstruction, in about a 15-year time period. And it's going to be a time period really marked by the growth of industry and labor in America, as well as some increasingly strange political ideas that crop up. But in order to better understand this, we're going to first take a look at politics and at um, economics. So, politically, there's two different ways to look at things politically. There's what's called the line theory and the horseshoe theory. So, in politics, people are generally categorized in one of three areas: left, right, or center. The center are moderate. Um, they are reasonable. They are not, really holding of strong opinions one way or the other. The right tends to be more conservative, wanting things to stay the same or not changing things. Um, the left are liberal. They want things to change. They want progress. Their belief is that staying the way that we are makes us worse. So the linear theory says that left and right, liberal and conservative, are basically two extremes on a line. And the further out you go, the more extreme they become and the more opposite they become. They they are really directly polar opposites, far off and removed from each other, each with different aspects and characteristics to them. So, and we'll talk about this briefly. On the flip side, the horseshoe theory says that there's still the same three groups basically: left, right, and center. But the further you go along the spectrum with wackiness, either left or right, the closer they become to each other because they're inherently kind of similar or the same. That's what the horseshoe view would be. So let's look at the first thing here: the political spectrum. In the center, you have the moderate, the centrist, the middle. They are reasonable people. They can be talked to, they can be influenced. They'll sometimes drift a little bit this way, sometimes a little bit that way. Conservatives are people who want things to stay as they are, not changing. They would like to see, like what it was 10 years ago to live like is the way that it's going to be, 10 years from now. This is the conservative point. The liberal is of the belief that there needs to be constant change in order for progress to occur and for anything to get done. Now, a little bit farther down from the conservative is the libertarian, based on the word liberty. Libertarians tend to value or tend to focus on the idea of individual personal responsibility and achievement rather than, looking at like if you were imagining like a game like football or baseball, the libertarian would be the guy who does whatever they feel like while the game's going on. They are sort of dictated by themselves. They kind of do what they want. There's some rules that they follow, but ultimately it's their decision. And you know what? If the game doesn't go well and it's their fault, they're okay with that. They accept the responsibility. Now, on this end, you have the socialist. Libertarians are all about the individual and the individuals making choices. The socialist is about the group dynamic making a choice. Socialists are well-intended people who believe that if you're not being generous and kind enough, it's the government's job to step in and help you to be generous and kind. They do it for you. You have 3 cars, you don't need 3. The government will take one of them from you if you're not willing to sort of sell it on your own. That's how socialists operate. In the end, along the left side, you will degenerate into party or group dictatorships. Those are people who assume power, but not on their own. They control because their political party is what gives them, the power to blow the planet up or whatever they need to do. On this side, you have the anarchist. They don't believe in any government whatsoever. It's kind of a free-for-all, baby. And eventually, one person will prove to be the strongest individual there, and they will take control and make themselves a dictator because they have proven that they're the one strong enough and able to do it. Now, on the flip side, the horseshoe. The horseshoe theory says, again, you have center, left, and right. But the further you go out on these spectrums, the more extreme that they will become. So that at some point in time, these extremes begin bending back in towards each other. And they're very similar, even though they don't like to admit it. For example, both the extreme left and the extreme right reject the idea of God, but for different reasons. For the extreme left, God is a creation of the government, or it's an excuse to abuse people, an excuse to do bad things. For the right, God is a creation of the government to control people, and therefore God does not exist as we know him. That he's a product of the imagination of the government in order to attempt to get people to do what they want. They both agree that God doesn't exist, but their reasoning is different. This one is because they view God as a way to control the population. This one is they view God as a means to attempt to subvert them, and that there's nothing higher in authority than the individual, him or herself. The individual is God here in the right. The government is God here in the left. Okay, so let's pick this up. I'm going to see if this first part settles, and I'll jump into this one. Peace and love.